Hi, this is Abul Hussein coming to you live and direct from London, the United Kingdom. Now, before I introduce my guest, if you're watching this video outside of our Facebook group for social media agencies, then please find the link around the video and join in, or go to smmamastermind.com. Now, I am so excited to introduce my guest. You know, she's a glass blowing extraordinaire. She is the co-founder of the Champion Roundtable, and also she has a TikTok consultancy, and she's built a following of 2 million people on TikTok rather. So Maayan Gordon, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Really excited to be here.
Thank you very much for joining us, because I know, you know, as a social media influencer, as someone who's really making waves, a lot of people want your time. So I really appreciate you being quite generous with us here. So you know what, why don't you give us a bit of an introduction into who you are and how you got into this talk space?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm definitely a pretty complex person, as you can see by all the different things that I'm doing. But really at the heart of who I am is just a massive love for people, as well as a massive curiosity for how we think and how we operate. And so that's driven me to get into marketing after I dropped out of college, because up until I got into college, I was 100% sure I wanted to be a veterinarian. I knew that I liked animals. I did raising guide dogs for the blind in high school, tried to volunteer at the Paws Wildlife Shelter, which was a really cool experience. So I had just this massive love for animals, and didn't know about a lot of career options. You know, back then it was really about get a good job, get a degree, and then you can make some money. And in college, I discovered this thing called copywriting. And I started making some pretty good money, getting paid like 20 bucks an hour, which to me was over the moon money in college, to do these different copywriting gigs. And that's what really threw me into entrepreneurship. I did that for about 1.5 years freelance before I wanted something that was much more stable than trying to constantly find new work. And that's what led me to create my first product-based business, where I sold a smoking accessory that we created called diffuser beads. And we had a ton of success with that. Surprising success, because we made up the word diffuser beads. No one had ever heard of them before, and people were still willing to buy them based on a couple of different factors. We got really burnt out on that business, and so I switched to something more creative, which was graphic design, sticker printing, and t-shirts. Did that for a while before also getting burnt out on kind of the manual labor part of that business. And that's what led me into glass blowing. I'd made a bunch of kind of clients who were glass blowers, and I just took some lessons from them, fell in love with it right away creatively, and saw a huge market opportunity on Instagram to sell the glass. So I've been doing that for the past 5.5 years. We've done more than $1 million in sales through Instagram, very directly. And then very recently, just in the past year, hopped onto TikTok, hopped onto LinkedIn, and I've had really a phenomenal amount of success, and really learned an incredible amount from using both of those platforms. So that's the essence of who I am and how I got here.
No, that's an awesome entrepreneurial journey, and everybody loves a good story. So talking about TikTok, you know, a lot of people will think of TikTok and they'll think of, oh, that's the thing the 12-year-old kids use, you know? I mean, well, what kind of made you go onto TikTok, which has quite a reputation as being for 16-year-olds or something, rather than a serious business platform?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd been made aware of its existence through listening to Gary Vee, as many people had. But what pushed me onto it was the fact that my Instagram growth had very much plateaued. So for 8 years, I'd been able to grow very consistently. And then something in the algorithm changed, and everything I possibly tried in a marketing sense really didn't have an effect to reach new audiences. Now, I developed a pretty decent sized core audience of 40,000 followers. So still had the motivation to keep using that platform, but knew that I had to find a way to continue to grow. I'm always focused on growth. So I tried out a couple different things. I tried Twitter, which I don't like and still don't like. Tried Patreon, which is like a platform for subscriptions for creators, and tried TikTok. And within the first 2 weeks, I got a video that did more than 1 million views in the first 24 hours. And so I was immediately incentivized to pay much more attention to that platform. And also it just had really interesting culture around like what people were commenting and like what was going on. And it was confusing to me, which I like, because I'm pretty smart, so things tend to come very naturally to me. And so when something's hard or confusing, am very interested. I'm like, what is this puzzle that I must solve? And so I just really focused in and used, I would say, the platform as a social science lab to come up with different hypotheses, test them out through video, and then analyze the results.
Yeah, no, that's great. 1 million views in the first week, you know?
It blew my mind because I only had maybe 6,000 followers at the time, which
Right.
was a lot to get in even just 2 weeks. I was like, this platform's pretty fun. I'm getting all these followers. And then it was like, boom, this mega video. And I was like, how does it even work? It's because on
Yeah.
Instagram, that's not possible. Like, I don't know. Maybe there's one or two people who've, with a couple thousand followers had a video that did 1 million views, but I'd never seen it before.
Yeah, so I suppose my next question to you is, how does the platform work? Is it based on hashtags like Instagram, or how do people just find you? Is it quite random, or?
So the TikTok platform is built very heavily on AI, artificial intelligence software, multiple layers of it, not just one AI that's integrated with it. And so 80 to 90%, I'd have to look at the most recent stat, but it's 80+% of all video consumption comes through the For You page, which is the home page. So when you open up the app, it immediately takes you to this thing called the For You page, and it just starts feeding you videos. And you can watch them and swipe and watch the next video. And so really it was the algorithm that had determined people want to watch this video, and it started showing it to people. People responded really well, kind of the same way that Netflix's algorithm will respond to your consumption behavior and show you more of what you are indicating that you like. And so it just snowball affected into it getting shown to a massive number of people because the app could tell that those people were interested to watch that type of content.
Wow, that's quite amazing. How long did it take you to actually build a that base of 2 million followers?
Yeah, so right when I got on, which was late August of 2019, and that's where I had my first viral video, I, grew probably like 100,000 followers from that first video. But then in October alone, I grew another 600,000 followers. So that was pretty
Wow.
massive, got me up to 700,000. I think over the next month I got up to 1 million, and then steady climb up to 1.7 million, where I hit a bit of a plateau, stayed at 1.7 million for 3 to 4 months before I kind of figured out a way to break through. And really during that time took more time to understand how the app worked, experimented with a lot of different ideas, and then I'd say over the last probably 3-4 months, it's been 1.7 to 2.1 million.
And I know you do TikTok consultancy as part of your marketing offering. Have you been able to replicate this result for other clients so that we know it's not totally fluky, or?
Yeah, so not in such a large degree. One, because I have a unique visual content, like glass blowing is very visually engaging. And then also it does really matter when you get on the platform. So it was much easier for me to grow to 1 million followers than most people are gonna find now, because the content in the platform is just much more saturated than when I started. It really was almost all dancing videos. There were very few even art videos. And now there's millions of artists who are all putting out different content. So it's just much more competitive now, but I have had some really great results working for a couple different brands, not only in helping them kind of grow their following, but also just creating viral videos. So one account that I was able to grow as a secondary account, I got up to 660,000 followers, which was in the food category. And I was actually able to sell that account and offload it to another brand and business.
Oh, no, that's awesome. And in terms of content, right? I mean, does your content need to be of viral quality to really get a lot
No,
of viewers, or
no, and this is what I try and get businesses to really try and understand is there's two things about TikTok. One is that it's a tool to help you get better at producing video. Now, just like any other skill, like being a musician, until you get to a real expert level, there tends to not be a lot of payout or benefit. Once you hit expert level, though, there's massive payout and massive benefit. And the same thing is true of video. If you create okay videos, you're going to get okay or less than okay results. Once you consistently can figure out and have the skill for creating great videos, it's game over and your business will win. It will drive huge amounts of sales from those videos. And so it's a skill builder, number one. Number two, it's not always about the views. It's about the value that you're bringing to your audience, and especially the audience who already is following you. So viral videos are great because they get a lot of views, but a lot of those views are first-time viewers, people who either literally are seeing your content for the first time, or maybe they've seen it a couple times, but they don't follow you. And so they're not really heavily engaged with your brand or your business. And creating content that is specific to bring value to your core audience which is not
Hmm.
going to be the biggest number of people. A core audience is always a much smaller percentage of your total audience,
Hmm.
is really, really valuable for driving loyalty and then driving off platform conversations. And I'm a big, big believer in that people buy much more from conversations with their friends and family than they do through an ad online. And so that's why I try and kind of get brands to see is that there has been a really big shift over the past 5 years in terms of sales marketing working, and in what ways that it's working, and brand marketing really starting to take over in terms of longevity and stability.
Right, right. And, you've touched upon generating sales through the platform itself. I think uh, a lot of the people that I speak to, they're social media experts and they don't know anything about TikTok yet. And they're like, well, it's just full of kids with dance videos and all of that. You can't really generate sales off of that. What has your experience been in terms of actually, driving people to your website or to any other page and getting them to buy from you?
Yeah, so here's what I've learned. If you can develop loyal followers, they will buy anything from you. It doesn't even, but if you're trying to sell your product and service to people who are not loyal to your brand, that is difficult in general. So I've had a fair amount of success in selling things that people want and have told me that they want to my customers on TikTok. Now, if I tried to just make something and push it on them, I don't think that would work at all. So it's
Mm.
really, about listening, but first you have to have an audience to listen to. So developing that, rapport, developing that relationship with your audience to the point where they feel comfortable saying, hey, we want to buy this. That allows you then a much greater ability to sell through the platform.
Right. Okay. No, that makes total sense.
And the other thing I would say, just in terms of selling, is live stream. The live stream feature is probably much, much better towards being able to sell in almost all of my sales and requests for items. Now, I make a handmade item, so I'm actually at a much more limited capacity to sell than if you have an Amazon store and you've got stock of 10,000 units, or you've got this big stock. It's actually easier for you to sell because you can show that item in every live stream. Like, you can bring it up much more often, and it is the one item that everyone wants. For me, it's really listening to the customers and then being able to respond and say, I don't have that right now. I could make it for this price, but here is something that I have if you want to support me, or if you're interested in that, here's a way you can get more involved. So I'm really not in my glass blowing business pushing a lot of sales, simply because I don't need to, and I'm trying to play a more long game kind of strategy. But what I am going to be probably pushing a bit more is merchandise. So because I've been able to develop some really loyal followers, figuring out what are the shirts, what are the hoodies, what's the apparel that they want to purchase from me, because I know that they want to support my brand. Everyone already buys clothing, so it's a bit different than glass. And I think that that's a way that any brand can really sell a lot of product, no, even if they're a service-based brand, that you can sell product through TikTok through merchandise.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Now, we haven't got much longer, and I've got a million and one questions. But say I mean, I've got the TikTok app downloaded. I know you can view the platform without having an account itself, right? So if I just uploaded a video now, put in a couple of hashtags, am I going to get traction? Is that how it works? I mean,
Only if you have a good video. So again, it really depends on, and what is a good video is really subjective to the audience, right? To the entire world that is on the app, or the 2 billion people that are on the app. But I would say there are some key factors that make everyone like certain types of videos better. One is lighting. If you have better lighting, people are much more likely to like your video.
mm,
Relatability. If your video is relatable to any type of audience, that's going to make it much more enjoyable to watch. If it makes people feel a strong positive emotion, that's going to make it really enjoyable to watch and people want to watch it. So it's really just thinking about what is good video content and trying to put that out there.
right. Okay. No, that makes sense. So, I mean, final question to you is about the platform and the longevity of the platform itself, because you might have heard of all the controversy around it. India has banned it because of,
People ask me about it all the time. Yeah.
you know, and then TikTok, Chinese company. We've got a lot of friction between the UK and the US governments with China at the moment. I mean, is this a platform that will last in the Western world, or how do you see it surviving through the tensions at the moment?
Yeah, I really do think there's very little to worry about for a number of reasons. One is that they have their servers based in the US. So there's a good level of protection there from anything Chinese because the servers are not in China. Number two, they have throughout the entire length of their business been very quick and very nimble. So they've already been able to make massive adjustments in their platform in terms of the business structure to accommodate any concerns and to deal with any issues that tend to be popping up. I guess a good example of that would be earlier on, people were really concerned about child safety, and they made some, quick leaps and bounds to kind of quash most of those fears. I think the same thing is true of any fears of, about China and what they might do with data, is that there's a lot of options for them from, I would say, either making the company more US based in terms of who's running it and who owns it, to hiring lobbyists, to there's a lot of options for how to deal with these issues. And the fact is that they've shown that they're able to deal with issues very, very quickly and in a multitude of ways. So I think, other platforms like Vine that disappeared, they did not act quickly. They did not really act at all in terms of when concerns popped up, them dealing with it. TikTok is so responsive to that, and they have so many dedicated team members in specific, entire portions of the company to deal with these things, that it's really not a concern to me at all, especially because, they employ more than 1,000 people in the US. I think it'd be very risky for anyone who's running for re-election this year, and it is an election year, to be putting more people out of work when there's such horrible unemployment right now from coronavirus. Similarly, I think people in the US are much more tied to social media culture than in other countries, and much more active in terms of, if this let's say it did disappear, them spending all of their time and energy to get it back through petitions, through whatever means are actually available to us. And petitions are a big thing here in the US, where you get enough people to sign it, it can become a law. It can become something that is permanent and legally binding. So I think all of those things combined and I'm not a lawyer, and I actually don't know that much about politics, I should preface that. But I also have, heard of instances where people have signed and gotten massive petitions signed, and it's had quite a powerful impact.
No, absolutely, because we had a development in the UK where TikTok were going to open their European headquarters in London, and now they've pulled out because of the British government telling Huawei, I think that's how you pronounce the name, to essentially get out of our 5G network. Now, one final question, actually, because I was going to already ask about this. The advertising platform has just started kind of letting people on a limited basis.
Yep.
That when they roll out the advertising platform, that people will be able to achieve their business objectives a lot easier through advertising versus creating all this fancy content. How do you see the advertising platform kind of tilting the balance, if you like?
Yeah, so that's another good reason why I don't think it's going to go away is, the more that businesses are investing into this app, the more the businesses are also going to fight for it to stay. It's hard for me to say how it's going to evolve, because for me, I've seen them be very cautious when it comes to advertising, just in terms of letting very few people use the platform, rolling it out actually very slowly over the past year. They've been working on this for at least a year, probably longer. And so it's clear to me that they're really in a testing mode still, and trying to figure out what is the absolute best way to integrate ads into our platform, where people, one, are actually watching them and they're effective in converting, but two, where it doesn't overwhelm the platform with ads. And so I think a lot of that is going to be targeting. I think that they're going to get really, really good at targeting, and they're probably, I would guess, using this kind of beta period and this initial phase mostly to gather data, so that they can then improve the ad platform to be something that maybe rivals Facebook one day in terms of geo-targeting, in terms of it really understanding who would want to watch that ad. Because the fact is, we all like ads that are very specifically geared to us. We just don't like ads that we are not interested to see. And so I think if they can, figure that out, that there is at some point going to be a huge explosion where they start letting a lot more people use the platform, because they are not certain, but very, very assured that those ads are not going to create friction with the audience, because they're targeted to the audience that wants to watch them.
Perfect. Now, Maayan, you've been very generous with your tips, and you've demystified TikTok for me, and hopefully for our viewers as well. If someone wants to find your glass-blowing channel or connect with you on social media, where's the best place to find you?
Yeah, so if you want to check out my TikTok account, it's at World of Glass on TikTok. And then if you want to connect with me, LinkedIn is probably the best place. I'm just searching my name, Maayan Gordon, or Google. If you Google my name, I've done tons of podcast episodes. You can find a ton of my content that way on TikTok and on other social media platforms. And then if you want my direct email address, it is monkeyboyarts@gmail.com. So that Monkey Boy Art is the name of my original glass blowing brand before I hopped onto TikTok.
Perfect. Maayan, thank you very much for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you.